My dad humiliated me at his 60th birthday for being single. The room laughed. I smiled, toasted him, and quietly took back the house they were living in. Imagine showing up to your father's 60th birthday, ready to celebrate, only to be publicly humiliated, treated like a punchline. For years, I was the family punching bag, the quiet one who just took it. But that night, something in me finally snapped. And I decided, right then and there, that I wasn't just going to take it anymore. In fact, I wasn't just bringing a gift, I was handing him the bill for a lifetime of disrespect. Okay, so my name's Nathan, I'm 31. I'm the oldest kid, the only one from my mom. And honestly, I learned pretty early on how to carry my own weight. Like, really early. We're talking carrying my own backpack, driving myself to practice, all that. Because in my family, effort? That didn't get you attention. No, it was all about the spectacle. My dad, he practically lives for it. My stepmom, too. And my half-brother, Tyler? Oh, he's the golden one. Born shiny, never needed polishing. Me? I work in operations for a logistics company. Not glamorous, believe me. Lots of spreadsheets, lots of calls at 7 a.m. about pallets that are definitely not where they're supposed to be. But it pays the bills. I share a cheap 2-bedroom with an old college buddy. I pack my own lunches. My receipts? Yeah, they live in a shoebox. Everything I have, I built it myself, from the ground up. I learned to be small, you know? To just shrink. Tyler aced a spelling test? Cake. A big, celebratory cake. Me? I got into the honors program, and my dad's only reaction was, "Are you trying to make your brother feel bad?" Seriously. When I was 16, he skipped my band recital, something I'd poured my heart into, for a poker night. When I dared to ask why, he just shrugged and said, "If you wanted a crowd, play something people know." Ouch. I told myself back then that none of it really stuck. But it did. Oh, it absolutely stuck. And I'm telling you this, because it's important for what happened next to truly hit home. So, last Saturday, my dad turned 60. And let me tell you, he loves birthdays. Like, loves them. It's his personal way in, his chance to pose for the crowd, to soak up all the clapping. He booked this private room at a steakhouse, with these ridiculous antler chandeliers. The server kept saying my pleasure like it was physically painful. There were dozens of people there, cousins, golf buddies, neighbors who just loved to talk about property values. The whole vibe was basically sponsored by ego. I showed up with a decent bottle of bourbon, a card, and, a shirt. Didn't want him to call me a tryhard. I found a spot at a long table. Tyler, my brother, just slid into the seat across from me, all gold chain and an air of complete comfort. My stepmom, Denise, air-kissed me from about 2 feet away, whispering, "You look thin," as if it was a personal crime. And then, we ate. Then came the stories. People droned on about my dad's hustle, how he rebuilt after 2008, which, spoiler, he didn't. Other people did that for him. Tyler, of course, chimed in, bragging about some new car he almost bought. And Denise? She just kept laughing, this loud, performative laugh, like she was trying to convince everyone she was having a great time. Then, around dessert, Dad stood up for his big speech. You know the drill. He thanked Denise, the woman who saved his life. They'd been married 9 years, by the way. He toasted the future of our family, meaning Tyler. He even did a fake cry bit. Everyone clapped, like a laugh track for his life. And then he looked straight at me. "And my man Nate," he said, tilting his glass, still single. "Maybe one day you'll be someone's second choice." The room did that weird thing, a half gasp, half chuckle. Like, is that a joke? Are we allowed to laugh? Denise cackled into her napkin, adding, "If they're drunk enough." Silverware clinked and then froze. I watched 2 of my cousins suddenly become very interested in their plates. Tyler just smirked into his water glass. I waited. I always waited. Waited for someone, anyone, an older relative, to step in and say, "Hey, that's not cool." But no one did. My dad winked at me, like we were co-conspirators in this brilliant roast. "Kidding," he said. Then, louder, "Not kidding." He lifted his glass higher. My throat went tight. Not from tears, not from sadness. From heat. A familiar heat, burning in my chest. The kind that screams, "Here we go again." The part where you just nod, swallow it down, and help stack the chairs later. My aunt leaned over, stage whispering, "Oh, he's just teasing, don't be so sensitive." I smiled. No teeth. I raised my glass, too. But I didn't stand up. Not yet. I can tell you the exact temperature in that room. I can tell you how many cherries were left on my dessert plate. And I can tell you every single person who avoided my eyes. Everyone I expected. But what I can't tell you is why that one landed. Why, after a lifetime of these little jabs, that joke didn't just bounce off like all the others. Maybe birthdays just sharpen everything. Maybe turning 31 made the math different. But either way, it was the first time I felt something inside me just stop agreeing to the terms. I put my glass down. Folded my napkin. And I looked at my dad. He was still grinning, like he'd just nailed the perfect punchline. "Happy 60th, I said. Calmly. And I meant it. I didn't say anything else. Not yet. The server lit the candles, the chant started, and I just mouthed the words, staring at the flames until they blurred. Okay, so this is the slow part. The part that explains why that one joke felt like the absolute last brick on a really unstable stack. My parents divorced when I was 10. Dad met Denise, my stepmom, within a year. And by the time I was 12, I was the mature one, which basically meant I didn't ask for anything. Then Tyler came along, and the whole family orbit just shifted. Like a wobbly ceiling fan finding a new center. "You're so independent," people would tell me. That's what favoritism sounds like when it wants to pretend it's a compliment. When I was 15, I started bussing tables at a diner just to pay for a used laptop. Dad saw my tip money and, without a hint of irony, said, "You're rich." Then he borrowed $70 until Friday. Friday turned into next month. I never saw that money again. Small thing, right? Brick 1. At 18, I got a partial scholarship to a state school. My mom cried happy tears. My dad? He just shrugged. "Let's see if you stick with it." When tuition gaps hit, I pulled night shifts in a warehouse. I once called him, asking if I could just crash on his couch between finals and a 5 a.m. shift. He said, "I'd love to help, but Denise hates clutter." So I slept in my car. My car, Rick, and I. At 20, Tyler got a speeding ticket. No insurance, of course. Dad called me. "You're good with money," he said. "Can you help your brother out? We'll pay you back." I sent him $350. Politely. No rush. The payback? Never came. Brick 3. 2 years later, at 22, Dad asked me to co-sign for a used Civic for Tyler. You know, so he could get to his new job. I said I wasn't comfortable. And my dad, he put me on speaker right in front of Denise. And called me ungrateful. Family helps family, Denise chimed in, filing her nails. "Don't be petty." I said no again. They just tucked that refusal into their pocket, like a little grudge coin. Brick 4. Then, at 24, came the big one. The house my dad and Denise lived in, the one my grandparents had actually bought outright back in the day, was in deep trouble. Long story short, Dad had refinanced it twice during a housing boom, cashed out the equity for investments, and then the market, well, it did him dirty. He was 2 months from default. He called me, his voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. "Nate, I'm in a bind." I didn't have piles of cash, but I had enough saved from years of choosing night shifts over weekends. Plus, I had decent credit, and absolutely zero desire to see the house my grandparents built get swallowed by some bank. So I said, talk to the bank. I'll cover the arrears if they restructure. But my name goes on the deed. I'll set it up in an LLC. I'll keep the mortgage paid. You cover the taxes and utilities. And we'll put it all in writing. Dad hesitated. Denise didn't. As long as we keep living here, she chirped, we care about stability. That word, stability, tasted so weird coming from her. We signed everything at a title office with truly terrible art on the walls. I even used an attorney from work to make sure the paperwork was spotless. Dad hugged me in the parking lot. You saved us, he said. Denise air-kissed my cheek. You're a good son. It almost sounded real. Year 1? I paid that mortgage like clockwork. They sent me $400 for taxes once, calling it covering our share. Year 2? They asked if I could spot them the property taxes because money's tight. I paid it. And heard, we'll pay you back. Straight to voicemail, universe. Year 3? They asked for a little help remodeling the kitchen, because it'll increase the home's value for you. They were texting me marble samples while I was literally on a forklift. Guys, I texted back, we agreed. I carry the mortgage. You covered taxes, utilities, and any repairs you want. Denise replied, you're being rigid. My dad followed up with, it's an investment. Don't you want nice things? A month later, I got a late notice on the water bill. I paid it to avoid a shutoff. Then we had the conversation at their dining table. It went something like this, me, we need boundaries. Dad, we're family. Me, that's why there's a written agreement. Denise, you're acting like a landlord. Me, I am the owner. Silence. Yeah. A new brick. Tyler, meanwhile, just drifted in and out of these years like a persistent storm. New jobs, same old excuses. They don't respect my talent. He crashed the Civic into a mailbox. Asked if he could use my car, just for a week, and called me stuck up when I said no. He even tried launching a clothing brand, mostly hoodies with his initials, and demanded seed funding. I gave him a list of free accelerators and told him to make a budget. His response? Wow, thanks for the TED Talk. Later, he even asked me to float his rent for a couple months. I paid the landlord directly, once, and told him, this is a one-time thing. That night, he posted a story with a champagne emoji. The words I heard a lot from them? Selfish. Sensitive. Ungrateful. The words I found myself saying a lot? Sure. Fine. Okay. Then came last fall. My dad called me on a Tuesday. You know Denise's cousin, the realtor, he started. She says the market's shifting. If we add a deck, the place will be worth a ton. Could you pull some equity from your thing and we'll pay you back when we sell in a few years? Pull equity from my thing? I repeated. The LLC, he meant. It's basically yours, right? He pressed. Not basically, I said. Exactly. Silence. Then he just blurted out the quiet part, put Denise on it, too. 4-piece. No, I said. Nate, he spat, his hurt quickly morphing into anger. You never do anything without a spreadsheet. Correct, I replied. He hung up on me. Denise texted a novel about how wives need security. And Tyler? He chimed in with, it's not like you'd even notice the money, bro. 2 weeks later, at Thanksgiving, Dad joked that I should give the blessing because you're the bank. Everyone laughed. At Christmas, a cousin asked if I charged interest. So, in January, I sent an email. Simple. Bullet points. I will continue covering the mortgage on time. You are responsible for taxes and utilities. If a bill is late, I will pay it and add it to a ledger. No further loans toward renovations. No adding names to the LLC. If taxes go unpaid twice in a year, I will convert our arrangement into a lease. I attached the original agreement. I used plain language. My attorney had told me, good. Create a paper trail. My dad called me cruel. Denise said I was punishing a woman for wanting stability. Tyler texted me a middle finger emoji. I saved every single one of those messages. Then spring rolled around, and with it, 2 missed tax payments. I paid them. Updated the ledger. Sent another email. Denise replied with a selfie from a spa, and the words, "You're impossible, Nathan." Which, finally, brings us right back to that steakhouse. Look, I didn't sit there plotting some grand, dramatic reveal. I honestly just wanted to make it to cake without becoming the story. But all those little years? They weigh heavy. And sometimes, just one sentence is enough weight to finally set them down. Candles out. People clapped. The server whisked away the plates. My dad sat there, his grin fixed, cheeks a little too red. He loved the sound of himself in that room. But a part of me knew he'd probably love the sound of me just quietly leaving even more. And that thought? That bothered me more than the joke. So, I stood up. A few heads turned. Denise's mouth formed an O, ready for a performance. I held up my glass. To my dad, I said, 60 years. That's no small number. You taught me how to change a tire, how to talk to a customer when they're mad, and how to ask for help, even when it hurts. I let that hang for a second. You taught me other things, too, I added, but we'll save those for therapy. A few nervous laughs rippled through the room. My aunt's eyebrows fluttered like startled birds. I don't really do speeches, I said, so I'll keep this tight. I brought you something. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a thin, manila folder. It's not wrapped cute. There's no bow. My dad tried to chuckle. Is it a job application for Nate's future wife? He quipped. Someone tittered, hoping for points. I set the folder down on the table, right in front of him. It's paperwork, I said. Denise leaned over it, already annoyed. My favorite. What is it? She snapped. First page, I began, is a statement from the county, confirming the property taxes are current. You're welcome. Her smile twitched, just barely. Second page, I continued, is a ledger. It shows the past 3 years. Mortgage? Me. Water and electric? Me, when you forgot. Taxes? Me, when you needed a little help. Total, $41,327. Not a bill, just the numbers. My dad's face did that. Thing I'd seen before, when a joke hits a brick wall. Okay, he said slowly. Not exactly birthday material. Third page, I went on, is the correspondence I sent in January. The terms we originally agreed on. And the part about converting the arrangement into a lease if the taxes kept getting missed. He flipped the page. His hands were a little less steady now. Fourth page, I said, is a signed lease, effective next month. Market rate, managed by a property company. So you don't have to deal with my spreadsheets. I paused. They'll email you tomorrow with the portal. The room went absolutely silent. Someone's fork clinked against a plate and froze. Denise's voice found itself first. You can't be serious, she hissed. I looked at my dad. He asked if I was serious. More than your vows, I replied. There were gasps. Not my cleanest line, I know, but it was honest. Dad pushed his chair back. It scraped the floor like a shout. You would do this to your own father, he boomed, his voice rising. After everything I've done for you, you're renting now, I said softly. Happy birthday. He slapped the folder with the back of his hand, like that would make it disappear. You ungrateful, don't, I cut him off. My own voice surprised me with its sudden firmness. I kept the mortgage current so the house wouldn't be auctioned. I put everything in writing. I asked for boundaries. You broke them, twice. I told you what would happen. This isn't a surprise. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. Denise stood up so fast her chair toppled over. You cannot evict us, she spat. We are family. No one said eviction, I calmly corrected. Pay rent on the first, like everyone else. Taxes and utilities are covered by the property company and included. No more ledgers, no more weird texts. Clean lines. She laughed, a disbelieving, choked sound. And if we refuse? Then the lease defaults, I said. And the process follows. It's all in the packet. Tyler finally joined in, like he'd been waiting for his cue. Dude, he jabbed a finger across the table. You've always been like this, acting superior, counting everything. I count, I said, looking him dead in the eye, because someone has to. My dad's eyes were wet now, the performative kind he could summon on command. How dare you embarrass me in front of my friends? Dad, I said, you embarrassed me in front of them 5 minutes ago. He gestured wildly around the room. It was a joke. So was, we'll pay you back, I shot back. I learned to hear the punchline. A cousin started to stand, like she might intervene, then thought better of it and sat back down. My aunt whispered, maybe step outside, to no one in particular. I took a deep breath. The part I'd actually rehearsed with my therapist came next. I'm not staying to argue, I said. This isn't a debate. I'll answer questions tomorrow, when the property manager emails you. Tonight is your party. Eat your cake. He just stared at the lease, like it was written in a language he flat out refused to learn. You can't do this, he said again, a smaller, almost desperate voice finally showing beneath the showman. I already did, I told him. I set my glass down, looked at the 2 cherries still on my plate, and left them there. As I turned to go, my dad's friend, one of those guys who wears golf shirts like armor, put a hand on my elbow. Son, he murmured, all fatherly concern, are you sure you want to torch this bridge? I met his eyes. I didn't bring the matches, I said. I brought a map. I walked out into the cool, rain-scented air. For a second, the heavy door muffled the room. But as it swung shut, the sound of everyone talking at once broke like a wave behind me. The very next morning, my phone started blowing up. By 7:13 a.m., my dad had missed-called me. By 7:19, it was 5. By noon, I had 19 missed calls, 8 voicemails, and a dozen texts. It was a neat little timeline of every family manipulation tactic you could imagine. Voicemail 1, son, we need to talk. You went too far. Text from Denise, you humiliated me. Voicemail 2, your grandmother would be disgusted. She wouldn't. She's the one who taught me to keep receipts. Text from Tyler, you are sick. Voicemail 3, okay, look. Maybe we got behind. We'll make it up next month. Then, right at 12:06, an email landed from the property company. Subject line, welcome to your resident portal. It laid out the rent, the due date, the deposit, the late fees, all standard stuff. It even had a line, please direct all maintenance requests through this portal. At 12:14, Denise texted, I will not be treated like a tenant in my own home. At 12:20, Dad left voicemail 4, I spoke to a lawyer friend. Family law says, he just trailed off. Yeah, there's no family law that undoes signed real estate documents because someone's mad. Then Tyler texted, can you at least lend me $2,000 until this blows over? I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and went for a long, ugly jog that eventually turned into a walk, where I counted fire hydrants to quiet my brain. When I finally got home, I wiped my shoes on the mat and made a sandwich. It tasted like quiet. Day 2, the family group chat lit up. My aunt, maybe you could have a sit down and apologize for the tone. My cousin Ren, he isn't crazy if you think about it. My uncle, the straight shooter, men provide. Are you a man or what? I removed myself from the thread. My aunt texted me separately, you didn't have to make a scene. I replied, I chose boundaries in public because I've tried them in private, and they bounced. She read it, then sent back a heart emoji. I guess she didn't have a better sticker. Day 3. My dad showed up at my apartment, completely unannounced. My roommate texted me from the buzzer, there's a man here who looks like he thinks he's in a movie. I went down. Dad started talking before the door even fully opened. We can work this out, he insisted. You don't have to go nuclear. I didn't go nuclear, I corrected him. I sent emails in January. I used words like convert to a lease. And you replied with spa selfies. He worked his jaw. We're family. That's why I didn't sell it, I said. That's why I used a lease instead of a lockout. He looked genuinely confused. You'd sell my house? It's not your house, I said, not unkindly. It hasn't been, 4 years. He looked older then, 60, finally settling into his shoulders. Your mother left me, he said, pulling out an old, unrelated wound like a witness. Everything is always taken from me. I didn't leave, I said. I just stopped paying for you to pretend. He stared at the ground. I can't afford market rent, he said, much quieter now. Then downsize, I replied. Or budget. Or ask your golden child to cut a check. He flinched. We just stood there, the hum of the street filling the silence. I'm not trying to hurt you, I said. I am trying to stop letting your choices write checks against my life. He glanced up. So, you're not moving back in to help? It was almost funny. No, I said. He put a hand on the glass, like a movie dad in a movie rain scene. You're not who I thought you were, he said. I am exactly who I am, I told him. You just can't spend it anymore. The property company did exactly what property companies do. They sent reminders. They even offered an online payment plan. Denise, of course, wrote an email to their general inbox that started with, as a woman, I expect courtesy, and the rep, bless their heart, just replied with a link to the lease and the line, we enforce the terms equally for all residents. I printed that email. It went straight into my shoebox with the other receipts, because it felt like a small miracle. Tyler posted a story, all dramatic, some people betray blood for money. I didn't watch it, but someone screenshotted it for me, anyway. A week later, my dad texted me a photo of the lease. His signature was shaky. Denise signed with a flourish that looked more like a threat. The deposit cleared. The first rent payment hit. And the world? It didn't end. They weren't homeless. They were just tenants. Turns out, being treated like everyone else isn't a tragedy. It's just an adjustment. My phone still buzzes sometimes. Some days I ignore it. Some days, I answer. Do you feel good about this? Dad asked me once, flat. No, I said. I feel clean. What does that even mean? He replied. It means, I told him, my stomach doesn't hurt when your name pops up anymore. That afternoon, I took a long shower. Washed my hair twice. Let the water run an extra minute, just because. For the first time in a long time, I wanted the quiet more than I wanted to rush back and fix something. Here's what I know now, I can love people and still lock the door. I can be generous and still keep a ledger. I can remember my grandparents' porch light without letting it become a lighthouse that pulls me back into the storm. I'm steering every paycheck toward my own forever. I didn't ruin my dad's birthday. I ended a pattern. On a day he picked to stand in a room and say things out loud. He wanted an audience? He got one. And so did I. Since that party, my world has gotten slower, in all the best ways. I make coffee at home now, and actually sit by the window instead of gulping it down on the way out the door. I read paperbacks on the bus again. I go to therapy on Tuesdays and say sentences I was scared to say before, like, I don't have to explain my boundaries to people who plan to violate them. I'm not some hero. I'm just a man with a folder and a spine I found under a pile of Be Nice. I answer some of my dad's calls now, when I have the bandwidth. He tells me about his knees. I ask if he's paying rent on time. We don't pretend to be a different father and son. We try to be the ones we actually are. Tyler texted me my bad once, at 2 a.m. That kind of apology that only drips out when the rent clears. I wrote back the next afternoon, hope you're building something you can afford. No emoji, no lecture. Just a line that wasn't a bridge or a wall. More like a fence, with a gate I control. The house? It's fine. The roof needed a patch. They filed a maintenance request, like human beings. A contractor fixed it. Denise sent a single-word email, thanks. I printed that, too. Not for evidence. Just because it felt like a weather report, still petty. Chance of okay. So, if you're reading this, and you're the Nate of your family, the quiet one, the reliable background character, the mule, here's my plain advice: keep receipts. Get things in writing. Stop loaning money to stories. Don't do big reveals unless you've already tried small conversations, and they've bounced. And if you do make a boundary in a room full of people, keep your voice low. It won't make them less mad, but it'll make you less shaky. There are still messages on my dad's voicemail that I haven't listened to. One day, I will. One day, I won't feel like I'm bracing myself before I hit play. In the meantime, I'm busy. I'm learning to marinate chicken the night before. I'm running without counting fire hydrants. I'm letting myself want things that don't have a receipt. He asked if I was serious. I was. I still am. No revenge. Just closure. And a lease that starts on the 1st.